So I last had the belt and idle wheels and tensioner all changed out back around 90,000 range. We're right at about 200,000 miles now, so we're a little bit overdue. It is making noise. Every once in a while it starts squawking, or other times it's squeaking. Let's get to it. We're going to be installing this Serpentine belt kit for a Chevy Silverado. It includes 2 idler pulleys, a belt tensioner, and the Serpentine belt itself. This is a heavy duty belt. It's not your typical black style belt that you'd see. You can notice that it has this extra green band around the whole thing. And it's by Gates. And one thing to note, if you're looking on Amazon and you see Gates as a belt option and you see AC Delco and the images look similar or the same, they are the same. You'll just be paying a bit more for the AC Delco box with the same stuff in it, with Gates products in it. So that's just something to note, at least for the Chevy Silverado year that I'm installing for. But let's get to it. Let's get this installed. So for tools to get the job done, you're going to want something pretty thin, because getting these 3 items off, your tensioner and 2 idler pulleys, is right next to that fan blade, and you're gonna have to be turning that fan blade to get the tools in there just right. And to use a 1/2-inch ratchet wrench, and here you can't even get to it because the blade's in the way. Just way too much width here. It's just not gonna work, so forget about that. And then the 3/8, your typical 3/8 is gonna be pretty short. You're not gonna get enough torque on there to get those bolts off. They're at 37 foot-pounds, but they're frozen on there because they've been on there for probably 90,000 miles on your vehicle. Get that in there. You can see you're gonna be in between the blades again. It might be doable, but it's definitely gonna be tight, because this is such a short handle. You want to get some extra leverage on there with a chunk of pipe, and all that setup is gonna make it even worse. This setup here, you're gonna be really struggling with it. It's wider than this one, and I use this to torque down the bolts, so it's gonna be rough using this setup like this. What I went with for this job was this. It's a longer 3/8, and it's a lot thinner, about a 1/4 inch thinner, just this piece alone. And then went with this socket, stubby socket, which is an 1/8 inch, so you get about 3/8 inch shorter than this standard setup. And I was able to use a little pipe to get that leverage, and this made it just in there, like the blades were right against this like that, so it fits on there just fine. You have just clearance of that fan shroud, that fan blade I mean, and you have plenty of room to work on that. That was the hardest one to get clearance on, but with that, this one might get pretty easy. But I was able to break loose those bolts with this setup without any effort, so this worked really great. Now another one here, it's even thinner, so you can check it out. It's quite a bit more narrow, so it even fit in there easier. It does have a shorter handle, but you know, getting some leverage with the little pipe works great. But yeah, this guy in here with ample room between the blade and the tool, and the same on the others. This is a crescent through hole socket setup, so long bolts, you can get to that nut because it will pass through the socket and the tool here. So it's kind of cool, but it also gives you a very thin tool here to work with on the bolts. So this would have worked as well. If you don't have these thinner ratchets, then your best bet is going with good old school wrench. And since those bolts are pretty tight, you're gonna have to use a closed end. This would probably slip off really easy. Try the old trick where you put the box end on the bolt, and then you put the wrenches together like that, and just kind of gotta be careful because it's a little slippy. So you get on the bolt down there, and then it's kind of hard to do with one hand, but get some extra leverage with this guy, and then you could break that bolt loose. So there's plenty of space, of course. And for working on the tensioner, the 1/2-inch breaker bar worked perfectly fine. At least this gear wrench one does. It's a little trick getting in there and getting this pushed into the square hole there because it's kind of tight. And getting your breaker bar onto that, it's snug. You have to definitely move the blades around a little bit. But you could get onto that right there to release the tension. You do have to like get it pushed over that little nub that it has on there, and that's probably the trickiest part. I can't do it with holding the camera and the wrench at the same time, but get your hand down there and push it onto that, push it into that little square, and then you could release the tension, and that works good. But once you get it pushed on, and then you just crank it like that, your belt will be loose. Take it off the alternator and then free it back down, and you're good to go. And the bolts go down to 37 foot-pounds. I put a little Loctite blue on it just because I'd never want these to work their way loose. And that's about it. So be sure to check your belt size before you order a new one. This is a 06 1177. There's a couple different belt sizes that go on the LLY engine based on the alternator. This is 105 amp, which takes a little bit shorter belt. There's also a 145 amp that takes a little bit longer belt. So be sure to check that before you order. Otherwise you'll come up with a longer belt that seems to fit, but it's not going to be right for your truck. Make sure you have a diagram of how your belt is threaded through all the pulleys. If you don't have a diagram, then draw one up before you take the belt off. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting to figure out how to get it back on the right way. Alright, got it here on the tensioner now. So I'm just going to give it a little go here. There you go. There you go. Get this belt out. Okay. With the belt off, I was just checking everything, that everything still spins and turns freely here, and looks like everything is working good. And like I said, the idler pulleys, you can feel their bearings are kind of loose and a little grindy. Alright, let's get to it. So let's get these idler pulleys off. There goes the wrench. Okay, that one's loose. Let's get to the other one here. I'm good. And then for the tensioner one, alright, that's good there. Let's see, it's harder to get my hand in. Alright, get that one out. That's free. Alright. Then for the tensioner, that one's free. Okay, so we got the 3 items out, so we'll go swap them out with the new ones and then get on to the belt. So I'm just taking a look here from the new to the old. This is your new one. It's all nice and clean, of course. Really, the tensioner is not in bad shape. I do like the older pulley a little better. It's a little thicker on the sidewalls, but it is what it is, I guess. This pulley, old pulley, I mean, decent shape. This is the one I think I was causing trouble. I mean, it's grindy in there. Anyway, so we're gonna swap out with these new ones. We're gonna use the same old bolts. I'll put a little Loctite blue on them. Torque down to 37 foot-pounds. So let's get this back in so we get the belt on. Alright, so I'm gonna put a little bit of Loctite blue on this, and then I'll put this pulley in, the bottom one first. See if we get some. Right. Finger screw this in all the way. Alright, that goes again. That one's ready. Alright, so let's put the tensioner pulley on now. This guy goes right here. Put this guy in. Don't want to drop it because it has a plastic pulley on it. It'll mar it up pretty bad. There we go, now it started. Hard to get that. Alright, let's torque all those down, then we can put the belt on. So I have the torque set to 37 foot-pounds. And torque these down. Got room here. A little fatter wrench. There we go. 37 foot-pounds on that guy. Hopefully I can get this one. Get ring for here. So it's really tight for this guy here. But it seems to be working. Alright, 37 foot-pounds. That one is tight. Tight getting in there. Let's get it off. I think I'll have to pry it off the socket here and then take a snug fit on that fan blade in the way. There we go. Ah, got that out. Look at the socket. Socket out. Alright, last one. That tensioner torque down. Alright. It's torqued down. So those are done. Those are all done. They're installed. Torqued down. Ready for the belt. Just double check, match it up with your new belt. Usually you should be able to find some numbers here. The 06 is for how many micro V's are here. Should be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you got your length 1177, 1177, so the same. If for some reason you don't see the label here on your old belt, you could always just stretch them out. They match up on both ends. So I'm gonna start at the very bottom pulley we got there at the bottom. Get that on first and then land on it as a starting point. Alright, looks like we're on that guy. We're gonna wrap it around the pulley for the fan belt. Once we get around that, we go around the power steering pump pulley. Air conditioning here. We go down to the idle wheel. And then up to the alternator, which we're not putting on yet. And then down to the other idle wheel down there. And let's get it on this tensioner. Okay, check everything's aligned. Just gonna kind of stick this right here for now. I'm gonna take a peek at the bottom, make sure it's aligned on that. You can see it right there on the bottom of that pulley there. So that looks good down there. So we're ready to slap this on and take some tension off the tensioner so I can do the final pulley on the alternator. Okay, this off. So it looks like we're all on there, just checking everything is aligned. Looks good. So we're just gonna want to start it up, let it run for a minute, make sure everything tracks right, and should be good to go. Looks good, everything's tracking well. Alright, so that's it. We got the new idler wheels, the tensioner, and a new belt installed, and it's ready to rock and roll. Thanks for joining.